within the bustling, never-dozing streets of New York metropolis in the early 2000s, while a brand new idea started to sprout. No one may want to have predicted that it might change into one of the greatest dramas in cutting-edge company history, a saga of ways billions of bucks might evaporate in pursuit of a dream. Adam Neumann, a charismatic, lengthy-haired young guy with unshakable self-belief, alongside with his companion Miguel McKelvey, decided to take an easy workplace condominium version in Brooklyn and flip it into something comparable to a faith, a philosophy of existence. WeWork was not just going to be an area wherein humans sat at desks and labored. It became meant to be a community, an ecosystem that might elevate the sector's awareness. Newman's power appeared to hypnotize buyers. He controlled to give an organization operating an actual property, which, in fact, actually leased homes and subleased them, as a global magnificence technology large. All in sundry concept, this was the destiny of the operating world, and Neumann, status on the helm of this destiny, became visible as a type of Steve Jobs of the office world. The period of the corporation's ascent resembled the achievement scenes of a Hollywood movie. The waft of money become relentless, and the biggest supply of this inflow become Masayoshi Son, the top of Japan's SoftBank institution. In line with legend, after a vehicle experience with Neumann that lasted best 12 minutes, Son determined to make investments billions of greenbacks on this young guy. He instructed Neumann that he become now not loopy enough, and this acted like pouring gasoline onto a fire. At WeWork, places of work, unfastened beer, kombucha on faucet, sparkling neon signs and symptoms studying "Be passionate, anywhere," and extravagant weekend summer camps had grown to be the norm. The business enterprise turned into developing at breakneck speed. The most highly priced buildings in London, Tokyo, Paris, and different megacities have been being leased. However, in the back of this rapid increase lay a hidden truth. Each new office opened only extended the company's losses. Neumann remained unbothered, persevering to misinform traders by offering losses as income, the usage of unusual phrases like network-adjusted EBITDA, which had no real basis within the financial world. He even went to this point as to promise that the organization could revolutionize, now, not simply workplaces, however also living areas and training. Every new assignment meant another $1 billion within the eyes of traders, but the regulations of the real financial system were silently ready in the wings. But, in the back of this glittering screen, a citadel constructed on sand became growing, and 2019 turned into the year this fortress experienced its first extreme tremors. The business enterprise's paper fee had reached $47 billion, greater than giants like Ford or Delta Airlines. However, when WeWork introduced its plans to head public and submitted its respectable files, the world changed into shock. As analysts and serious traders flipped through the papers, they noticed no longer a business plan, but a narcissist's manifesto. It changed into discovered that Neumann had become the business enterprise right into a mechanism serving his own non-public pursuits. As an example, he had registered the trademark "we" in his personal name, and then sold it to his own organization for $5.9 million. Furthermore, he was, in my opinion, purchasing homes and leasing them again to WeWork, effectively appearing as each tenant and landlord, transferring money from himself to himself. The agency's board of administrators was absolutely underneath his have an impact on. The files even contained weird clauses, consisting of his spouse being the one to decide his successor within the occasion of his loss of life. Those files additionally added to mild that the corporation was losing billions of greenbacks every 12 months without an actual plan to stop the bleeding. The agency, which investors saw as a technological miracle, changed into found out to be not anything more than a real estate bubble, burning coins uncontrollably. Each person commenced to invite the same query. If this is a technology employer, why is it promoting desks and chairs instead of software program? The IPO became canceled, and the $47 billion valuation plummeted to below $8 to $10 billion inside a few weeks. This became now not only a failure, it turned into the greatest act of self-exposure in present-day financial history. Underneath stress from traders, Adam Neumann turned into eliminated from his post, but he exited the deliver with a golden parachute of over $1 billion in compensation. Left behind were hundreds of unemployed people and a large debt burden with an unsure destiny. SoftBank needed to spend billions more just to keep the ship from sinking. However, the consider became already gone. Even after new management arrived following Neumann's departure, the fundamental structural hassle, the excessive long time period higher prices versus volatile quick-term sales, remained unresolved. The collapse manner increased through a sequence reaction. Right at this juncture, the worldwide pandemic that hit the sector became the very last nail in WeWork's coffin. In 2020, as workplaces emptied and the far-off work model have become a need, WeWork's commercial enterprise version changed into rendered completely meaningless. The organization had turned out to be a prisoner of long-term and excessively steeply priced rent agreements signed years in the ago that couldn't be canceled. The buildings were empty, however the rents needed to be paid. Even though WeWork had shouted for years that we aren't simply a workplace, the fact turned into that once the places of work were empty, they had been nothing. Over the next few years, the agency tried to restructure its debt and exit shore buildings. However, it continued to lose billions of dollars yearly. The inventory rate dropped to nearly zero. Even a massive investor like SoftBank found out that throwing extra money into this properly changed into futile. Therefore, in November 2023, the as soon as invincible large officially declared financial ruin. This changed into the formal record, marking the stop of an technology, the era of cheap cash, out-of-control increase, and the charismatic founder cult. Billions of greenbacks had virtually evaporated. However, the panorama left in the back of was even grimmer. The classes to be learned from the WeWork story serve as a sobering wake-up call for each entrepreneur and investor nowadays. The first and maximum fundamental lesson is that the basic concepts of business cannot be changed by any advertising trick. Regardless of how tech-savvy an agency attempts to appear, if its revenue does now not cover its costs and the path to profit is murky, it's miles destined for failure. WeWork showed us that the boom in any respect expenses mentality, if that boom isn't always sustainable, is honestly strolling quicker toward a cliff. For investors, the lesson is even harsher. Acting out of worry of missing out and blindly believing in one man or woman's air of mystery leads to the loss of billions. In which there is no sturdy corporate governance and transparency, even the brightest concept can turn into a private fiefdom and, in the long run, a disaster. There need to be a healthy stability between a founder's vision and the organization's economic realities. In any other case, the board of administrators will become simply a rubber-stamping frame. That is the beginning of the give-up. Then again, this event another time proved the eventual emergence of truth within the business world. While Adam Neumann and people around him talked for years approximately changing the world, they have been honestly jogging far away from a very easy mathematical truth. 2 plus 2 never makes 5. The financial ruin of WeWork is also a lesson in terms of the fate of personnel. Guarantees that the company is a circle of relatives and is changing the arena are frequently the primary matters sacrificed within the face of financial realities. Heaps of young abilities spent their energy in this revolution, but in the end, they had been left with nothing but devalued inventory options and disappointment. Today, the new workplace models constructed on the remains of WeWork are more careful, extra sensible, and greater income orientated. This story will continue to be a monument, reminding us that speculative bubbles hidden underneath the guise of generation and innovation will finally burst. The end of the tale additionally demonstrates the detrimental power of ego in business. Neumann saw himself greater as a prophet than a businessman. He had satisfied absolutely everyone that he could change the rules. However, the marketplace by no means bows to the egos of people. The financial ruin of WeWork is not simply the sinking of an organization. However, additionally, the bankruptcy of the faux tech generation. An employer selling workplace furniture and wallpaper does no longer become a technological innovation. It is simply a carrier with desirable design. Those who not noted this difference paid the heaviest charge ultimately. In the long run, achievement in the commercial enterprise global is feasible no rust by means of dreaming big, but by combining those goals with a fact that remains grounded. WeWork is the story of those who forgot the strength of gravity whilst walking a number of the clouds. Today, searching returned from 2026. The empty workplaces of WeWork whisper to us that know the entirety that glitters is gold, and that in the back of each big promise, a fact should lie.